Hey everybody, it's Bolshi here, back with another Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous build video. If you like this build, make sure you like and subscribe. It will really help me grow the channel. The last few days I've been doing a solo playthrough of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and it's been a lot of fun. I had a blast doing it. I wanted to make a video and show you what build I used and some specific details about the build and strategy, gear, and whatnot. So this is going to be a little bit more in depth. If you like this kind of video, let me know in the comments. And I can do more of these. The class that I chose and the archetype is going to be the Monster Tactician, and this is a really solid solo archetype. It has it's really built around summons. Your summons can get pretty strong through feats, class abilities, mythic abilities, and whatnot. So there's a lot of really good synergy for a big chunk of the game. It has great utility. It's got a lot of buffing and defensive spells and healing. And you can also pick up an animal companion. So it's got pretty much everything you might want. Oh, and it also has a lot of skills for passing skill checks. When you're the only person in a party, skills are really important. So all in all, this is a very strong class and a very strong archetype. It also has really great synergy with the specific mythic path, the Aeon path. So I wanted to try it out. Unfortunately, there is a point in this game, in the leveling of this class, where everything you've worked up to becomes completely obsolete. And I'll talk about that in more depth too. But let's get into the build. Alright, so we're going to jump into the build. Now, unlike my other build videos, I'm going to give a little bit of a description of what the gameplay is like at each stage of the game as well. So, for this playthrough, I went with the Monster Tactician Inquisitor. I'm going to go human, primarily because I want an extra feat. This is I'm going to try and do a trip build, and that requires a lot of feats. The Inquisitor, you don't get a lot of bonus combat feats or anything like that. You get a lot of teamwork feats, but I want that extra feat. We're going to go human. If you wanted to try and make this work with Crane Style, you could go with Martial Disciple. I didn't. I'm not really going to if my main character is tanking damage, then I've done something wrong, because I really want my pet and my summons to be the meat shields. I want to be attacking from the back row and not getting focused. So you can take whatever. I can't even remember, honestly, what background I took. Farmhand is good for a Inquisitor of Aristil. I went with, in the actual build that I was trying out, I went with 17 strength and 18 wisdom, but you don't need that much wisdom. I did that because I wanted to get more of the Monster Tactician summons per day, but I think that that's kind of overkill. I always ran out of spells before I ran out of summons. So to revise this build, I would go with 16 wisdom with my bonus in strength, and take strength up to 19, and then 13 dex, 13 intelligence. We need the 13 dex for precise strike, we need the 13 intelligence for combat expertise, and we don't really need charisma for anything. So this is a pretty good stat spread for starting out. Let's go back to the Monster Tactician and why I chose this for a solo build. The Monster Tactician trades out a lot of your standard Inquisitor abilities like Judgment. You don't get Judgment at all until the very end of the game. And in place of that, you get these cool summons. So you get the Summon Monster 1 through, 9. But these don't function like regular summons. They're a standard action, which means that it only takes you a couple of seconds to cast. Usually these summon spells, if you learn them in a spell book from another class, they're a full round action. So it takes a solid 6 seconds to get the cast off. These, they are a standard action, so if it's your turn, you press the button and they summon instantly. They also last a minute per level, which is fantastic because most summons are around per level. So once you get to, level 5 or so, these summons really do last a long time. And I noticed that I wasn't having to recast a whole lot at about level 5. Also at level 5, I believe it is, we get Summon Tactics. So all of your teamwork feats get applied to your summons, which is really great. So, Outflank, Precise Strike, Tandem trip is what I'm going to be using, making a lot of use out of. This ability is going to apply that to our summons. We also get Bane, bonuses to Perception is really nice when you're playing solo. You don't want to miss traps, you don't want to miss extra loot. So being a wisdom based class, getting an extra bonus to Perception, and also it being a class skill, you never miss perception checks. All right, let's keep going here. Skills. I went with athletics, mobility, perception. Use magic device is important. And then the other two, I was just trying to get some XP. So nature, religion, there's a lot of arcana checks. Oh, I forgot. One of these has to be in trickery. You got to be able to unlock things and disarm traps for XP. So you got to give something up. Perception, use magic device, and trickery are pretty much mandatory. Mobility up to 3 points, so you get that extra point of AC while you're fighting defensively, which you'll do every time you get focused. We get a lot of skills, so after you get those mobility, trickery, perception, use magic device, then just put 2 in whatever. Arcana is good. There's a lot of arcana checks early in the game, and we want that XP. Feats. We want to buff these summons as soon as possible. So what I did was I went Spell Focus, Conjuration. Now we don't need difficulty class to any conjuration spells, but this is a prereq for, what are the summoning spells? What's the first one called? Augment Summoning, first of all. This will give us a bonus to Strength and Constitution for all of our summons. So if you have melee summons, which we do for the early game, then this is going to be very helpful. But this is also a prerequisite for something even better that we're going to get in a little bit, a couple levels. We're going to get Superior Summon, which is going to add 1 additional creature every time we cast a summoning spell that conjures more than 1. So, like for each one of these summon spells, you get a few options. For example, Summon Monster 2, you can choose to either summon 1 wolf or 1 to 3 dogs. With this feat here, you're going to be able to get 1d3 plus 1 dogs. You wouldn't be able to add an extra wolf here because it has to be more than 1 creature that you're summoning. So you always want to take the summons that summon more than 1 thing. Deity, I went with Aristal. Has good domains. Also, I wanted to do a lawful playthrough here, kind of the good guy playthrough. So Aristal's all about community and helping people. It was nice for the RP. We're going animal domain because we want that animal companion. Unfortunately, Inquisitors don't get domain spells. It would be really nice to get some additional summon spells, but we don't get any of these domain spells. You only get the domain abilities. So at 4th level, we're going to get an animal companion. Crucial for the game. I'm going to show you the spells that I use the most. Expeditious Retreat. We're going to be running around when we get our animal companion. It's going to be very fast, and with Expeditious Retreat, we're going to be flying around the map. And you don't have to wait for other slow party members because you're playing solo. This is actually really nice. And Shield of Faith. Those are the 2 first level spells that I use the most. Alright, now I probably should have mentioned this before, but you get out of the prologue if you turn on XP for just the person that does the skill checks, and if you're doing all the skill checks. When you get out of the prologue, you're level 3, almost level 4. So the first 3 levels, they almost don't even matter because it's such a cakewalk. Even I think I played on like daring difficulty, and it was really easy to get through the prologue. Taking our 2nd level in Monster Hunter, I'm just making sure that we want to get Use Magic Device, Perception, and Trickery and Mobility first, and then you can put your other points to balance things out. The next spell I go with is Bless. Bless is an AoE buff, so what you want to do here is get your summons out and then cast Bless, and everybody gets a nice +1 to attack and saving throws. We also get a bonus. We get to add our Wisdom modifier to Initiative as well as Dexterity. Nice little bonus. At level 3, now that we have 3 points in mobility, you can start putting this in other things. I go the mandatory ones. There's a lot of athletics checks. So I start putting some points in athletics as well. Also, we have high strength, so this is a pretty good skill for us. Our feat at this point is going to be superior summoning. So now we get that extra summon. And let's see, we're level 3, so now we actually do, that's perfect timing. We can now choose to summon 1 to 3 dogs, which becomes, with this feat, 2 to 4. So Monster Tactician is really about just like crowding the battlefield with meat shield summons. And you always want to choose the thing that you get the most of, in most cases. Our first feat, this is why we took Dexterity 13, so we can get Precise Strike. Now, not yet, actually, in a couple of levels, all of our summons are going to be getting this extra 1d6 damage. Our spell at this point was, I think I used, well, it's always nice to have your healing spells. I think I take a healing spell just about every level to top off your pet. Relying on potions 100% of the time is kind of difficult, so I like to have some healing here. Also at this point, we get solo tactics, so if you had anybody in your party, they're treated as if they have these teamwork feats, so that you don't need them to have the teamwork feats to activate. And at about this time, this is when we get out of the prologue. I think you're maybe like, I don't know, 500 XP shy of being level 4. So what I did was I did the companion quests first. I dragged those, I think there's 2 or 3 companion quests, and I dragged them around first to get that XP. And you easily hit level 4. Put a point in strength. We don't need mobility anymore. You also want lore religion so that you can get those corruption checks when you have to rest. This is the skill that's tested. So you want to have this. I would actually probably make this a mandatory skill as well. And the companion I chose was the Leopard. I like the Leopard a lot. I know the Smilodon probably does more damage, especially as it gets bigger. But the Leopard has, first of all, it has dexterity to damage. So you only have to buff 1 stat of your pet to get the full benefit. You get AC, you get attack, because we're going to take weapon finesse, and you also get damage bonus with 1 buff. And we're starved for buffs. Like, you have to buy scrolls and potions and things. So that's really helpful. Also, he gets a bite that automatically trips. And in the beginning, this isn't that great, but we're really going to buff this up with our feats. Level 2, we're going to take invisibility. That's the first priority. Get you out of combat. Resist energy at this point in the game is kind of a lifesaver, because there's a few really tough fights that have specific energy damage that if you don't have resist energy, you can makes things a lot easier to have it. I think what I went with is invisibility and just a heal, and maybe we'll pick up restoration next. Okay, at this point in the game, you're kind of on your own, just you and your animal companion. And at level 5, and your animal companion isn't that strong. So at level 5, we get to take a feat that's really going to help us with that. Skills out of the way. Let's see. I want to get my lore religion up, so I'd put 2 points in that right there. Our feat is going to be Boon Companion, and this is going to calculate your animal companion's abilities as if they were 4 levels higher. Because we got our companion through a domain, his level is reduced, so this feat takes him back up to our character level. And at this point, your pet is really like the MVP of the party. He does the most damage, he's the most survivable, he's actually really hard to kill as long as you're buffing him with Shield of Faith. If you can, get dexterity buffs. And mage armor, definitely potions of mage armor for your pet are really important. You want to buff his AC as much as possible. Does a lot of damage and has great utility through trips as well. Our next spell... my spell choices are always really defensive. And this invisibility, by the way, gets you out of combat. That's why I took that. It's, if your main guy gets focused on anything above like normal difficulty, he goes down pretty quick. So you can pop off an invisibility spell get it back, get your summons between you and the mobs, and kind of reset the fight with this. So that was why that was the first priority there. At level 5, we get some great things. We get Bane. So for 1 round per level per day, you get to enchant your weapon with Bane, which gives you a +2 to hit, and also it does an extra 2d6 damage, force damage, to for the entire duration that you have it up. This is really good for the mini boss fights, the difficult fights where you need to pump out that extra damage. And now we get summon tactics. So all of our summons are getting our teamwork feats, which is really nice. Level 6, get our important skills out of the way. And now we can take Outflank as a free teamwork feat. So this is fantastic. Now all of our summons, which at this point last 6 minutes per level, and our pet, I believe at this point, I'll go through the pet leveling and after I do the character leveling, but everybody should have Outflank. So this is a huge bonus to our damage, and we get a lot of attacks of opportunity through crits. Just all in all, a great feat. Align weapon could be very useful later on down the road. I think it's a minute per level buff, and sometimes, a lot of times, demons will have damage reduction that is negated if your weapon is good. So if you align your weapon to be good, then you do a lot more damage. I'm not entirely sure if you can cast that on your pet, but that won't matter anyway. We're going to take a mythic ability. Let's see here, level 7, we get another summon. I should probably be mindful of what those summons are. Our feat at this point is going to be combat expertise. We're going to pick up the trip feats, the line of trip feats, and you need to start off with this. This is also a nice little defensive ability to turn on and off when you get focused. So I have them hotkeyed. I have fighting defensively and combat expertise hotkeyed. And if something turns and starts attacking me, I just put them both on, and you gain an immediate, what would it be? It's like 6 or 7 AC. So that's really helpful when you get focused. Divine Favor is a buff that's always useful. It's a luck bonus to attack and damage. Very rare to get luck buffs. Our first spell is going to be Heroism and Prayer. Prayer is just like Bless. It's an AoE buff, which is also a luck attack and damage buff. And basically you get your summons out for a big fight, pop Prayer, make sure you and your pet have Heroism, and you've got some decent buffs there. We get a new summon monster as well, and now we can get between 2 and 5, but with our feet, 3 and 6 wolves. And these wolves are tripping as well. They get a trip attack with their bites, so that's very helpful. Level 8, another point of strength. Get the important skills. Get another 3rd level spell. I like to go with the next healing spell there, Cure Serious Wounds. I found myself healing quite a bit actually. Taking if I ever got focused, I was taking enough damage that I would have to pop a healing spell and a potion in the same round. So that's very nice to be able to do. Our feat here is going to be Trip. We took combat expertise last level, so now we can take Trip. And also that opens up Tandem Trip for our teamwork feat. Tandem Trip is amazing. Anytime you or your summons make a trip attempt, you get to roll twice and take the better result. I ran a little simulation where I kind of did that on a spreadsheet, and it ended up being like an average of 4 or 5 higher. It's like a +4 or 5 to your trip roll. But I don't think that really does justice to this feat because it's so good. So many times I see my wolves tripping something, and I look at the combat log, and it's like one of the rolls definitely would have failed, and the other one, because of Tandem Trip, is what made it succeed. So great feat. We're also going to pick that up on our pet as well. We get another spell here, third level spell, delay poison. I use scrolls for this. This is kind of an important one to have. Resist energy communal is really nice to have on demand. Sometimes you stumble on an enemy that does like Brimarax or something, and your summons are going to get slaughtered through AoE. So being able to have your summons out and being able to have an AoE defensive buff to protect them from energy damage is super helpful. Also, we get our next summon here. This is a good one. Now we can get multiple dire wolves, and the lizards are good too. They trip on attack. I went with the dire wolves because they're a little bit stronger. And now all of these dire wolves are getting tandem trip because that's teamwork feat, and we get teamwork feats to summons. So these dire wolves are really, really powerful. The thing about doing solo playthroughs with Kingmaker or now with Wrath of the Righteous is that usually the early game is pretty rough. In this case, it's not because we level so fast out of the prologue. But the mid game, you kind of coast through because we're entirely over leveled. Like at level 9, I was just getting my Mythic rank 1. And if anybody else has played the beta, you usually get to that point in the game at about level 5, I think, if you've done everything else up to that. So we're very over leveled. We have great summons, a ton of summons that trip. Everybody's stats are kind of inflated. And at this point, even on a more challenging difficulty level, we're kind of coasting. As long as your main character doesn't get focused, kind of coasting. Level 10, more feats out of the way. Get some extra spells. I think I actually took like Bone Shaker here because sometimes I needed to do some range damage and I just couldn't do it. Crusader's Edge and Divine Power are what I went with on level 4. Crusader's Edge is basically it's Bane, like your Bane weapon ability for evil outsiders, which is any demon. You fight a lot of demons. So having a minute per level buff that gives you Bane to demons is really, really strong. Divine Power is also just a great buff when you really need to kill something. Gives you luck bonus to attack and damage that scales with your level. You also get to make an extra attack per round. You get some temporary HP. It's just one of the best offensive buffs in the game. At level 11, get our skills out of the way. We're taking Greater Trip. And this is really for defense. I found that sometimes I was getting focused and I needed to run away, but it's really nice to be able to trip something and run back and get your summons kind of in the way of things. I also just wanted to make this a tripping build. So I went with Greater Trip. Whenever our main character trips something, he also, and anybody around that target, everybody gets an attack of opportunity from the tripping action. Usually what happens is you trip them, they fall down, and as they stand up, that provokes an attack of opportunity. But now with Greater Trip, you get an attack of opportunity when they fall and also when they stand up. So 2 attacks of opportunity for every trip, as long as you have combat reflexes, which we're going to pick up very soon. And at this level, now that I'm, sometimes I need to trip something, True Strike before a trip guarantees that it's going to land. So that's helpful as well. Level 4, I chose Cure Critical Wounds. Always want to get that healing. We pick up Stalwart, which is if you make a fort or a will save that would normally half the damage on a spell, now you take no damage. So this is very nice as well. Our new summon gives us more dire wolves, and this is kind of where we peak. The next 2 levels, level 11 and level 12, you really peak in this particular build. Our next level, level 12. Get the skills out of the way. Our teamwork feat, I'm going to take Coordinated Maneuvers. This is going to give us more bonus to our tripping, our wolves. And our wolves are really doing work right now. They do pretty decent damage. I think at this point is when I hit, maybe it was a little bit before this, when I hit Mythic level 2, And I'll go into the mythic abilities, but at this point I get a mythic ability that buffs up my summons so that they ignore damage reduction. So the summons are really just murdering things right now. And this will only improve their effectiveness here. We get some more good spells. I found at this point in the game, I was getting into fights that had a lot of enemies on the battlefield, and this build doesn't have any AoE, area of effect damage, or CC or anything. So I went with Holy Smite, just so I could be able to do some damage to large numbers of enemies at one time. Those enemies happen to be demons most of the time, so this is really good because it gives us extra damage to evil outsiders. And that's where my playthrough basically stopped. Now, I do want to finish it, but I don't really know what I'm going to do just yet. And I'll tell you why. Because in this build, these summon spells, you don't get to keep the previous iterations. So once you hit level 11 and you have Summon Monster 6, you don't get to cast Summon Monster 5 anymore. And that's unfortunate, because when you hit 13, you lose your wolves, and you get Extraplanar Axiomites, which cast Lightning Bolt, I believe. I believe these are the ones that cast Lightning Bolt. And guess what? Demons are completely immune to electricity. So it's useless. The only person that ever gets hit by the lightning bolts is you. So, there is friendly fire, and they kind of kill you and your pet while doing absolutely nothing to the demons. So those are horrible. The extraplanar Brillani Azadas, I don't even know what they are because the game is bugged, and these guys won't appear if you summon them. Neither does the Bogeyman. So the only option you have at level 13, if you choose to continue in Monster Tactician, is to take these guys who are completely, they're worse than useless because they can only do damage to you, and they can't damage the demons that they're trying to. I mean, I don't know. Do I mod my alignment so that I'm evil, so that I can actually get some valuable summons? Because at least these red caps are melee. Everything that we've built to up to this point has buffed the melee capabilities of our summons. So, I mean, I don't really know. The other alternative, I thought this would maybe be kind of a cool build. It's got some things that are wrong with it. But maybe what I could do is I could stop at level 12 Inquisitor, keep my tripping summons and all these tripping feats that I invested in, and start building my main character to be more effective at tripping. So what I thought I'd do is maybe go Quarterstaff Master Monk to get, if you go 5 levels in, you get some nice damage, you get some bonus feats, and you also get to trip on every attack with a Quarterstaff. I mean, that could be kind of cool. Kind of fits the, loner, follower of Aristil vibe. Or I could start going levels of Two-Handed Fighter. If you go 3 levels of Two-Handed Fighter, you get this nice ability here, Overhand Chop, which lets you add double your strength bonus to single attacks. Now, single attacks also apply to attacks of opportunity when we're tripping, outflank, and so on. That could be good. I don't know what I'm going to do. So that's where the leveling of part 1 of this guide kind of ends. And unfortunately, it just, I don't know. I think they need to do something to fix this, because you're so strong up to this point. You're really coasting. And then your summons, which your keystone ability, they define the class, become completely useless at this point. Worse than useless. Kind of a letdown. And for my pet leveling here, I made a couple of mistakes, but this is my actual playthrough build. I'll tell you what I would change. I went with the bully animal archetype because you get trip, and you really can't get this on a pet as a monster tactician without going with the bully, because it requires you to get combat expertise, and you'd need to have a 13 intelligence. So that's a no-go on the pet. But if you take bully, you get trip as a bonus feat, and that means we can take the other trip. We can take specifically Tandem trip, which is the really good one. And we also get a bonus from this to tripping, and your Leopard will trip on attack. Okay. Our first level feat is going to be Weapon Finesse, and this is going to allow the Leopard to use his really massive dexterity to attack instead of strength. At level 4, he gets dexterity to damage instead of strength, so that's really nice as well. I went with Fury's Fall. This is going to let us add our dexterity bonus to tripping attempts, as well as our strength bonus at this point. I chose dodge here, but in hindsight, I would have chosen coordinated maneuvers because it's about this time in the game where I get the teamwork feat. So that would be an additional +2. And honestly, this guy never gets hit. Like with decent buffs, with bark skin, shield of faith, mage armor if you don't have good bracers, this guy's not getting hit. Let's see here. 46 AC. This is not fighting defensively. 46 AC at level 12 is pretty solid for a pet. We're getting all our teamwork feats for free on our main character, so we want to make sure our pet has them as well. Oh yeah, at level 4 you have to take a point in intelligence so that you can get these good feats. So instead of buffing up the obvious choice of buffing your dexterity, your first ability score improvement should be for intelligence so you can get these good feats like outflank. Level 9, we get Tandem Trip, and I think this is exactly the time that we get Tandem Trip for a bonus teamwork feat, so that synergizes really well. And then I went with Agile Maneuvers. So all of these feats, the goal is to buff our tripping ability, and it does a pretty good job. So even though we already add our dexterity with Fury's Fall, so now when you take Fury's Fall, you get strength and dexterity bonus to trips, and Agile Maneuvers just takes that strength bonus and changes, swaps it out for another dexterity. So that basically means you get to add double your dexterity bonus to tripping attempts. And this guy, he just never misses. He gets 1 trip per round guaranteed. I'll show some videos, but his tripping bonuses at this point in the game were off the charts. You just couldn't stop him. All right, for my Mythic path, I actually didn't get to the point in the game where you get to choose a path, so I'll just tell you what I did in my first couple of levels and what I was planning on doing if I continued this build from here on. Our first ascension, I went with Bit of Fun because you get Mirror Image, and we're always trying to find things that will buff our survivability for our main character. Also, I just really like getting a bonus to skill checks. When you're the only, you only have one character in your party that's capable of doing skill checks, it's nice to have every bonus you can get. My first ability, and at this point in the game, really, who's doing the most work is your Leopard. So I went with Mythical Beast. And this is a huge, it's nice to get the strength, dexterity, and constitution. That's nice. But the real benefit of this ability here is that your pet ignores damage reduction. And even at this point in the game, which I got this at level 9, just about everything you fight has damage reduction. And now your pet completely ignores it. So at this point in the game, even if I messed up and my main character died, my pet could usually solo every single mob, and then I would just stand back up at the end. So that was really nice. On Mythic Rank 2, we get that bonus to our skill checks, which is really nice. I went with extra Mythic ability, and I'm going to do the same thing to my summons as well. They now get a bonus to all of their ability scores, except for intelligence for some reason. And their attacks ignore DR, damage reduction. So at this point in the game, you're really coasting on your summons and your pet. I'm trying to stand in the back line behind my pet, getting attacks in with a reach weapon, with a long spear is the only one we can use. But our summons are really doing a lot of work here. Now this is about where my playthrough ended. I was just about to choose the Mythic path right before in beta you liberate the main city and you get to choose your actual Mythic path here. Of course I was going to go Aeon. If you're familiar with the Mythic abilities, the Aeon is just perfectly suited to go with an Inquisitor. That's kind of one of the reasons why I chose it. I thought it would be a really cool Aeon playthrough. Aeon gives you gazes that are kind of like Judgment, that give you specific buffs for an entire combat session. So, combat starts, you cast your gaze, and it lasts until the end of that combat. So really good for big fights. And there are some gazes that give you, +2 damage reduction, attack. There's one that buffs up your summons. It gives them buffs to all of their ability scores. So there's a lot of synergy with summons. And you also get Bane, Aeon's Bane, which is like regular Bane, like the Inquisitor Bane, but it also casts a spell on every attack that you make. And it stacks with your Inquisitor's ability. So this Mythic Path is tailor-made for Inquisitors. And later on, you even get to apply this Bane to all of your summons. I can't remember what rank that is. We'll find out in a minute. But that's super strong. And that pretty much wraps it up for this build. You know, it's unfortunate that you get to a point in the game where everything you've invested up to that point is completely negated by one class ability. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I think what I might do is respec and take some levels in Fighter. And then at level 17, when you get Summon Monster 9, you actually, once again, you get some really good melee summons. The Movonic Divas are melee characters that also kind of cast some buffing spells and some damage spells that don't affect you. Those are very solid. So I think maybe I'll get back to level 17 by going into other classes and then respec to be a full monster tactician, and then take my last 3 levels in two-handed fighter to get a bonus to attacks of opportunity. I think that's what I would do. I'll probably post another video when I actually get back to this and figure out what I'm going to do. Yeah, I apologize. I wish I had a better video. I wanted to do a video that was, you know, start to finish all the way through, but this is really a sticking point right here. And I really think that, you know, they could probably do something to fix this. All right, that's the build. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.